I'd start off, you're both sisters, correct?
Yes. Yes.
All right, and how old are you, if you don't mind asking? We always like that.
I found out, I had a birthday this week, and I found out I am 4,383 weeks old.
Well, I didn't.
It's 84 years.
I'm 88.
And were you both born in Huntley, or?
She was.
You?
The folks moved up here in Huntley in 1929.
Okay.
And I was 3 when they moved up.
And who were your parents?
Al and Kate Bonkoski.
The Bonkoskis are recognizable.
Yes.
Okay.
Recognizable.
I want to tell you about them.
Yes.
Oh. What did they?
Well, there were 5 Bonkoski boys, and they were raised on a road in Dundee, which is now called Bonkoski Road. And our mother was raised on the same road.
Oh, really?
They were neighbors. So, yeah. And then they came to Huntley, and they did a lot of things for Huntley. So
Oh, yeah, I recognize
very proud
that.
of them.
Now, what did they do when they came to Huntley?
They farmed.
Farmed, yeah.
They rented a farm, 400 acres, which is extremely big at those days because we had no electric and
No running water.
no. Depends how fast you ran. But and we had a tractor then.
Right.
But otherwise, it was all horses. We had 13 horses and a pony, and lots of cows.
Okay, cool. And where was the farm at?
Just northwest of Huntley, where we have all townhouses now.
Part of it is the Tullamore settlement or Tullamore subdivision.
Okay.
But there's a lot of the land that's south of that. In fact, the land came up to the railroad tracks, and there was 35 acres on the south side of the railroad tracks that belonged to it. It was a 400-acre farm, but 150 of it wasn't tillable. I mean, a lot of it was woods and lowland.
They had, what was the name of that? Oakwood
Park.
Yeah, okay. See, you know more than we do. Yeah, and they used to have dances out there, I was told.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty well seen.
When we moved out there, the dances had ceased by that time, but part of the dance floor was still there.
Really?
In this woods.
Wow.
She had to take the cows across the tracks. She was on the pony, so.
Yeah, we got a pony, but there was a little reason for the pony. We had to make sure the animals came in for milking and be on whether it's cows or horses. And most of the animals came in. They knew it was feeding time or milking time, but there was always a few stragglers that didn't come in.
So you had to go get them?
Yeah, just like kids.
And
So where did you go to school? Did you go to school in town then?
in Huntley here, the apartment building right next to the Congregational Church was the school. And when by the time Bootsy and I got there, they had built another building just east of it, which was the junior high and high school. But this building that's right next to the Congregational Church at one time was the whole entire school. But we grew a little bit, and we had less than 200 kids in the whole school.
Oh, wow.
There was only 16 in my graduating class.
And we had 10.
Wow. difference.
And we went to school here. We had great teachers. I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, I think we were very fortunate. And you know, we didn't know any better. We didn't know what we were missing out on because you never had it. So we were all happy, and we had marvelous parents. They were just the best, and taught us
How
the
to
main
work
things,
and how to behave.
Showed us by example.
Nice.
And they loved to dance. They taught us to dance.
Did they ever go to any of the dances in town and say Pat Hall or anything?
Yes. Above what's now the furniture store. Strode's. Upstairs there was a big hall, and there was a lot of dances up there. And on Thursday nights during the winter they had free shows. During the summer we had free shows on Thursday night, but it was outside. It was in the street between where the Legion is now and Coral Street, where the Legion and the park is. But and so every Thursday night, everybody came into town for these free shows.
And then we got a quart of ice cream when we went home. Bulk.
Oh, sounds like a fun time.
Yeah.
Those are the sweet things of it all.
So did either of you go to any schooling after high school, or?
I did. I went into Chicago and went to school 2 years.
Very nice.
And
I did correspondence course, but I got a job right away, so I started working at Marlow Feed and Hatchery before I got out of school, in fact. So,
Wow.
So I stayed there for 55 years. So
Oh, that.
I guess it was my place.
Now, was that the mill building that we all remember, or was it before where
Yeah.
they were at the
No.
Legion?
The one that's not there anymore, next to the railroad track. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
And where did you work at?
I worked at the, I first worked at the State Bank of Huntley, that was right on Main Street. But then after that, the people that owned the Huntley Farm Store, it was a John Deere store. It's where the motorcycle shop was, where that building is tore down now too, just north of the railroad tracks on 47. And I was there 17 years.
So you two were right next door to each other.
Oh
for a
yeah,
while.
yeah, we did.
Coffee time.
Great time we always were together. And then when the farm store sold, I went to a trucking company, and I was there 17 years.
Wow. So being downtown most of the time, you two must have some great stories about it now.
I worked in town most all the time, and so did Bootsy.
Yeah. I moved to Elgin 1 year, and I thought, oh, that's the place to live. And you know, people were not friendly like Huntley. We couldn't even meet our neighbors, which just really disappointed me. I had to come right back to Huntley. Yeah.
So what are some of the some fun stories or some interesting stories you remember?
I don't know.
Oh, dear. All right.
Everybody had jobs when we were kids. Everybody had chores.
We all
Took care
had
of the
chores.
chickens.
Yes, we did.
And I was the littlest, so I had to work inside.
She had to do most of the dishes
Yes,
and
yes.
this kind of thing.
I learned to bake cake when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And did a lot of that. And we didn't have electric, so it was all this way. Everything was from scratch, which probably some of these people don't even know.
Well, and we got electric on the farm in 1938, and the first thing my father got was a milking machine, and my mother got a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Those were big things at that time.
And then before that, you know, we had the kerosene lamps, and we had a huge big table in the kitchen. Was like for when the thrashers would come, and you'd feed all the men that came, and so you needed this big, huge table, probably as long as all those chairs. And everybody had a spot at the table with a lamp, so they would study.
That's how we did our homework. That's where we did our homework.
And then we had a school bus, but it only came to the end of our lane, and our lane was probably a mile long. And so we rode into town with Dad in the milk truck, a black Ford. Sometimes it wasn't big enough. He had to make 2 trips to take the milk into town.
You said you walked to school every day.
Well, that's after we moved into town.
That's my son. So, but in 1936, I remember that well because that was my first year in school, and we had that big snowstorm, and we had to go over the fence post with the sleigh, and he had the milk cans in there. But when we got into town, all the farmers took shovels and would open up the road so the milk truck could get there to take it into Chicago.
Wow.
And that Bowman Dairy that came, they had truckloads that went. We were the largest producing milk center in the world, I think.
At least in
At
the
one
States.
time. Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah. My dad was a very good dairyman, and boy, he knew every cow's name. He would talk to them like he would us kids, I think. Yeah, he was a very good farmer.
All right, so how long were you guys out at the farm?
Until I was
1942.
we moved into town.
When the war
March
came.
of 42, right.
And then he had all daughters. There were 4 of us. And a farmer needs sons. So it was hard you couldn't get hired men.
You know, in fact, a couple of the men that were working for Dad were drafted into the Army at that time.
Yeah. So he couldn't run 400 acres and 60, 70 cows by himself. Although our mother went down every morning and milked cows too.
Every night.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I know Parisek is your last name and Zirk is your last name, so obviously you two had met some couple different wonderful guys, I'm hoping.
Oh, yes, yes.
And
We thought so.
that's a good thing. And what was his name?
My husband was Frank Parisek. Ray Frank, actually. But he was in the Korean War, a Marine. And when he came home, we got married and lived in Huntley.
Yeah, where'd you meet him?
At a roller skating rink in Elgin.
Really?
Yeah, we had 53 years together before he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, he was good for me and good for Huntley. So, did a lot of good things. But I want to tell you about my dad first.
All right.
If that's okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, because there were those 4 or 5 boys, and each one in his own did something good for where he was. The oldest boy was the chief of police in Dundee, and he did that for 34 years, I think, or something. Yeah. Each one did something good for the area that they lived in, and that really makes you proud, you know? I think we all like that feeling. So we were very happy that they named that road Bonchowski Road. But in '42, then when he had to quit farming because of no health, we moved into town, Huntley, and he was mayor twice, from 1945 to '49, and then again he was a write-in in '57 to '61. And then he was assessor from '65 to '73.
The assessor for the township at that time was elected, but the original assessor took sick and wasn't able to carry out the duties of the assessor, and they had to fill in until the gentleman was better and able to come back, and so he did it.
He was also on the school board when Betty graduated from high school.
Right, and that was in '43.
And he had the pleasure of handing her diploma.
Really?
That was a real treat. And then he worked for the defense plant here, because it was wartime.
And that was out at Powder Park, where they were doing the ammunition and
Down at the end of Grove Street. Okay.
Where did you live in town?
He built a home on Woodstock Street, Woodstock and 3rd, right on the corner. Tom Dwyer lives there now.
right.
And then they sold that eventually and built a smaller house right behind it on 3rd Street, and I own that now. So, but I can't live there now because I can't live alone, so I am living with my son in Woodstock. But I'm a Huntley girl. But now can we talk about Mom? Okay. I just wrote down a few things that I thought she did because, like we were saying, they cooked everything from scratch. The laundry, first you had to pump the water, then you had to heat the water, carry the water. What a job. And I think, I don't remember this, but the dog made the wash machine work. It followed a track around.
Right.
But I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, at first that happened,
Yeah.
But then after that, they got a gasoline engine of some kind to
Yeah.
drive the belt to make the wash machine work.
And then when it came time to butcher pigs, they would butcher 4, 5, 6 pigs at a time. And I can remember Mom standing at the cook stove frying out all that lard and cooking the meat and canning it because there was no way to keep it otherwise. And, well, we ate very well. I was called Fatso and Lard Wagon in 1st grade. So I changed a little.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, yeah. And of course, they all took turns. Every family in Huntley worked for their church and for school, and, everybody put in their time. It was just a great town to be in because you had all these opportunities. There was always something that needed to be done, and if they knew you could do it, boy, you were asked. There's a lot of volunteering.
It sounds like it makes the town work better.
Oh, it does. I think that's why we're like we are. I'm so proud of the darn town.
It's definitely changed a lot, too.
Yeah. Yes, I come to town and I don't know. We used to know every person that lived here. It was all like a big, huge family. Everybody took care of everybody else. But now, we have a lot of strangers. Then, it was wartime, so the ladies would meet every week and they would cut and roll bandages for the war effort. So the ladies got involved too, even though they weren't going into service much in those days. But they did contribute.
Very interesting.
And speaking of Mom, she made all of our clothes. She sewed.
Yeah.
If she wasn't cooking, she was sewing.
Yeah. I never had a bought-in coat until I was in high school.
Wow.
Uh-huh. They were all made by her or hand-me-downs. You got 4 ahead of you.
And I'll add to Bootsy's story. Mom's family grew up on Bonkoski Road also, and when they went to school, there was quite a few kids living on that road. They walked from Bonkoski Road to the St. John's Lutheran Church in Elgin. Now that's walking and crossing Kibble Street Bridge, going up the hill to Spring Street, that's where St. John's was. But that's where they went to school. And I bet the parents just cringed when they had to send the kids in the rain or the snow. But there was always a group of them. There was 8 or 10 kids walking together. But it was like a good 4.5 mile stretch that they were walking
And then
each way.
even after she started working at the watch factory, she went to eighth grade, I think.
Right.
Was as far as they got. But then she had to walk to Route 31 in order to get a ride to the Elgin Watch Factory to go to work. So there was a lot of walking. And Dad said you always had to walk to get to the Fox River to go ice skating.
They could do that this year too.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah.
I don't know.
I have a question. Didn't Grandma Bonkoski in your younger days hire out to work with a family and bake bread every day for them? And that's something. I thought that was a story that I knew. No?
I don't know.
Most of them didn't because they were busy just home on the farm. In fact, Dad only went to school through 5th grade. And by that time, the father said, wait a minute, you got to help me here on the farm. By that time, some of the older brothers already had married and left the house, and he needed help. And so it amazes me, my father was a sharp man, and how he only went through 5th grade. I went through 2 years of college, and I'm sure he could outsmart me on things.
You were helping figure out how much grain went in the silo or in the bin, and he had it all figured out already. She was still going.
Doing my equations, you know.
Yeah, this was always one of our jokes.
And some of the chores, I'll tell you what my chores were. We had a cook stove, and it was a wood-burning stove. And we had a box in a little shanty. That wood had to be in that box, so the wood was always there available for Mom to keep cooking that's how they heated the house. Mm-hmm. And it was my job to keep the wood bin full. There was a wood pile just outside the house, but I had to make sure that wood bin was full. I had to feed and water and the chickens and gather the eggs. We had a windmill outside of the house, about from here to the far wall, out in the hall, and I had to carry buckets of water, so Mom always had water. And we had a cistern pump there was a well there that I had to also make sure there was a little reservoir in this cook stove. As you had the wood burning, this kept this water warm. This is how people had warm water to walk when the men came in from the fields or from doing chores or milking. They'd come in, and this is their warm water. And but we had to.
That fire went day and night.
Yeah, because this is the only way we heated the house. were some of my jobs, and I'll never forget. One night I came home from school and I was going to slush off, which I did. And so I'm sure Mom told Dad I didn't gather the eggs or I didn't do it. And so when he came in from milking at 7:30, he said, "How many eggs you get today or tonight?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't gather them." He said, "Well, you better get out there." So in the dark, I mean, you couldn't carry a lantern in this chicken house because there was straw and things. And you couldn't take it into the barn to get the feed. You had to leave it sit outside. So I learned a lesson that night. I never slushed off again. Never.
See, we had fun.
Yeah, and in all of it, we still had a lot of fun. I mean, we all worked, but we had fun.
Money was very short, of course, and always made sure he paid the hired men before there was anything more or less for the family. But they always tried to save their 50 cents so they could go to a dance once or twice a month.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what else did you guys do for fun?
Well, it's coming
Playing
into
baseball
town,
outside.
right? And the free shows in summer.
But the work days were long. You know, by the time they'd get done at night, it was bedtime. And of course, we didn't have TV. We had a radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Shadow Knows. Yeah.
All the old time radio shows.
Yeah. We'd turn the lights off and I'd get really scared.
So what were some of the businesses that you all used in town while growing up? Because I know there are a lot of recognizable people, Farley, Heinemann,
Right.
lots of...
And at that time, we had 3 grocery stores. We had a Royal Blue that was run by Bill Clanton.
I worked there.
And then we had Farley's that was
And we
down the
had Van
street
Ness.
further. And then there was a grocery store on where Luigi
Van Ness.
is.
Yeah, the Van Ness ladies.
Yeah,
Holly's.
right.
Yeah. And, I got a job as soon as I moved into town. I was so tickled. Yeah, that was really great. I had 5 cents then. You know, to ask your dad for a nickel for pencils was tough when there weren't nickels around, you know. You
This
don't
was kind
know
of
about
during the
nickels.
Depression.
Yeah, I was a Depression baby, so.
Right.
So was my husband. He came from a family of 10, and he was born right at October of 29. He was it. So, yeah, he'd been through a lot, and he quit school early to help his parents take care of the rest of the family. He had triplet sisters that came just a couple years after him, so I don't know how his mother ever managed. But they did, and they did a good job of raising those kids, and everybody got fed and loved. So I guess, how much more do you need?
And your husband was?
Bob Zirk, and when he came home, he was in World War II, and he came home, when he came home from service, we happened to meet. We both were working at the same place, and this is shortly after, in 1945, and we met and started dating, and we married.
Oh, very nice.
And after we married, he went to school. He went to school at DeVry to get electronics, and then we opened up a television store. And but Polk Brothers kind of ran us out of business. Polk could buy so many more TVs at the price that we couldn't get, because they got such a big discount that it just was too tragic of a event. So then he went to work at ITW and was involved with a research and development lab there.
Very cool.
He has about 4 or 5 patents from that.
Oh, wow.
But
Very
it's-
smart man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of Zirk's television repair.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
advertisements from that.
Mhm.
Very interesting.
And he did a lot of electronic stuff in town and for people.
So what were some major events or anything that you might remember that occurred in town?
We had dances at the Legion every month. Yay, they were fun. And we had such a wonderful community that the people just look forward to getting together and, yeah.
I think the biggest event that I can remember is the Caddies, where Caddies is now. That was a brewing company, and I can remember the first day they were able to serve their beer after it's sat. I mean, or the process, and everybody in town went to that doing. The folks came in.
Oh,
We had a big sesquicentennial. The town stayed with everything that was going on. When there was something to celebrate, we did it. My husband was an electrician, and was all his life, and he was on the board for the union of the electrical, and started the pension plan, which I'm living off of. I'm really happy with him. Yeah, but yeah, he was asked to fill in on the park board when it first started, and stayed there for many years and was president of the board. Did a lot of physical work there. The kids always joke that we built a home at the same time, and then our closets, we had a pull chain for a light because he was always down at the park working and never got to put any lights in. It was our family joke. But yeah, and they named a park after us.
yeah.
Out on Main Street. Very proud of that.
Yeah, so then you obviously knew Edwin Dykey.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did a lot for Huntley. Financially, I say. Yeah. He liked Huntley. But, yeah, I don't know. Huntley's my town.
It's a great town, it really is.
And I don't know if last week there was an article in the Daily Herald saying Huntley was the right place to live.
Oh, was it?
And I saved that paper.
I missed that. Yes. Well, I agree. I just think well, the old Huntley I can speak for.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Betty, you've been on the Grafton Township Board.
Yes.
When did you start serving on there?
I started serving in 1996. A man that was on the board, and he was 2 years into his term, and he was moving out of Grafton Township. He was moving to Maringo. And so I was asked by the board if I would come on and finish serving his term. I'm still on the board.
She's one of those that goes around door to door and tells people what we got to do.
Well, I don't know about that.
That's the kind of people you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, she does it right.
And I've also am part of the food pantry. I was working, I was a trustee at the township when Millie Ruth had the food pantry going. And when John Rossi was the supervisor, he made it a nonprofit corporation. which I think is very good. And now we're out on off of Smith Drive on Allison Court, and we're serving about 200 families every month. And it's all food donated, food or money donated so that we can purchase this food. It's wonderful.
It's a shame that we have so many people that are needy, but isn't it great that we can help?
Yep, still be a community like it always has been.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Does anybody have any questions?
How did you get your nickname?
Oh, the week I was born, my uncle saw me, and I was yellow, and my booties were bigger than I was. And Lois was kind of a new name at that time, and so he called me Booty.
And it stuck.
Yeah, I like it. You can never say it and be mad. You know? You know, my son.
How many children did you each have?
I had 3, 2 boys and a girl. They live here. I live with that one, and the other son lives out the back door. They built back to back. My daughter lives in Marino. She works for Genoa. She's an assessor over there now too. I tell you, it's catching. You start working for people. I worked for Marlowe Hatchery for so many years, and I worked for D&G Transfer, and I worked for, I was treasurer of church for 12 years or so, and a lot of independent little stores. It was my life. I loved doing it. So, I've been very fortunate, I tell you.
So when you ladies grew up, there were no red lights in town, right?
But I mean,
Pardon me?
No red lights in town.
Well, you're right.
we did have a couple stop signs though.
What was the population then?
It was right when we first moved to Huntley. I think it was around 650. But when we went to school, it was 900.
900.
In the 40s.
Did they have a turkey festival then?
I missed it.
You girls didn't talk about the music part of your lives. There was always music in the home, and you both play and sing.
Yeah, I did a lot of singing. Started out at 3 years old. They put me on the piano, and our 2 older sisters played piano and the accordion, and they had bands. And when we were out in the country, they practiced out there and played for a lot of the things that went on in town. And I sang for dozens of weddings and all the programs I think that we had. I was very lucky.
She also sang with a band.
Oh yeah, 18 men and me. They were in tux and I had a red dress. It was an Elgin Watch Company's 50 millionth watch, and they had this big dance celebration at the Armory there. Oh, I had to try out for it, and oh man, talk about nerves. And yeah. One big delight of my life. I don't know.
Bootsy, I've seen you drive before. Have you ever driven any race cars?
Oh. Yeah, I have a couple of trophies from Soldier Field, women's amateur stock car racing.
we have to reiterate on that one a little bit. A good friend of ours had a stock car, and he was racing either over in Rockford or at Soldier Field.
Or Milwaukee.
Or Milwaukee, that's
And
true too.
When my husband, well, he wasn't my husband then, but when he was in service, then I went with this fellow and his girlfriend and went to all the races. That kept me out of trouble, I guess. And then I got to the point where I would tow the truck or the car from Huntley into, we met him somewhere, he worked in Franklin Park. And so I would tow that thing to there and meet him, and we'd go to Soldier Field from there. So. We learned to drive early, you know, because I drove tractor before we moved into town.
Right.
And I was 12 then, so when you're on a farm, you learn to do these things early.
And at that time, you didn't go to the county like we do now, or to get a license.
Yeah, I don't remember getting a license.
They weren't issuing them.
I know now when I go.
But
No remarks.
and I know I learned to drive. Dad put the truck out in the middle of the hayfield, and he says, "Get in there and drive." She would ride with me, and if we were from here to that wall, away from the fence, she said, "You better start turning." And
See, we did have fun.
and luckily there was no accidents. I mean, we just rode around in that field. It was a level field, thank goodness. It was a hayfield, and everything was good.
And you know, you learn to play cards because you didn't have other entertainment. And I know the folks had so many married friends that would come over, and they would laugh and giggle playing cards, and we learned how very young.
Right.
Yeah. I don't get to do that anymore.
I still do play cards.
Oh, well, I go to the computer and I play on there. Nobody's got time anymore.
Yeah, I don't know how the folks had time, the way they worked so hard and such long hours, but they always found time. If the relatives came out to the house, they'd sit down and play cards for a little bit. And
When there was always fresh baked bread. Oh, and the people would come in and we had, Jack Hansen.
Right.
He would come in and he'd go over and he'd take that loaf and take a bite out of the end. He always got that end piece. Yeah. Oh, Mom was a good cook. She was good at everything.
There she was.
Yeah, very talented lady. She would have been a house designer if she had been born 30, 40 years later, maybe 50. But, yeah, she was really talented. Yeah, we were lucky.
Yeah.
I got you, I'm lucky.
But I feel bad, I mean, because I'm not a good seamstress at all. And I wished I would have spent more time with her and sewed more. But I was busy outside doing all this other work. So.
I learned to sew, though.
Yeah.
I made most of my clothes for a long time. Let's see, what else?
Now, you both were talking about how you'd learned to drive younger. On your first vehicles, did you get that from anybody in town? Did you get that from George Dolby, or did you go somewhere else for your first car?
Dolby Chevrolet.
Yeah.
That was where Strode's is now. And then eventually they worked their way into Buicks. So we didn't have that in town. But otherwise everything was local. You bought everything local.
And I'm, part of the Legion and other organizations. And I feel we should be patronizing our Huntley or stores and businesses where we can, because this is the way we should do things.
Agreed. always did that.
You said you moved to town from a 400-acre farm. Where was the farm located?
Just north of Huntley. I don't know if you know where the township building is right now.
Yeah.
All right. If you go to the left and go toward Tullamore, just go straight. There was a lane there, and it was about almost a mile long. And we were down there. That's where we lived. There's no buildings there now at all. Everything is torn down.
It's all townhouses and...
Well, but not on half of the farm. The
Yeah,
other
true.
half hasn't been touched yet. Yes.
Do you remember the big picnic they used to have?
Oh, yes.
I've never heard anybody talk about them, so I thought I'd...
Oh,
bring them up.
yes. I mean, and these were
And the carnivals.
carnivals. They used to have carnivals, and the firemen usually did it. They had a volunteer fire department, and they did these things. They got the carnival to come.
But
Well,
everybody helped.
Everybody helped.
Whether you were a fireman.
And they had it either at, they had these things a couple times right downtown, and a couple of times out in in where the Park District is now, or they've had them a couple, 2, 3 places in town, but it was either where the Park District is now, or otherwise on Coral Street right there in town, in the park.
Yeah. Main Street.
All right.
Let's go back 80 years and start over.
Sounds good.
Well, I don't know, technology with the computers
Yeah.
and things are changing rapidly. I mean,
I wouldn't give up my childhood for anything.
no, I wouldn't either.
Not even to have all the nice things. I'm the laundry lady where I live, and how easy it is, But my mother worked so hard doing it. I just feel for her, and yet we never heard her complain.
No. And I'm sure many times through the winter she froze her hands because she always hung everything outside. It had to freeze dry.
Yes.
Then you bring it in and let it finish dry.
Yeah, and you had a line going from one door handle, the hinge, to another one, and the whole house was just hanging full of overalls. Because we had the hired men, and you did all their work and fed them too. So, yeah, they had a hard life.
But they were happy.
Yeah. Oh, they were happy. Yeah.
But they always had fun. I don't know. I mean, they taught us to have fun and enjoy the things you got
Yeah, my
and
little
have a good
birthday
time
party
with it.
last week was fun. And now I know how many weeks old I am.
Did you have Christmas trees at Christmas time?
Oh,
and all
sure,
that? With
sure.
candles or?
I don't think they put candles
I don't
on
think
them.
we had
I
any.
don't think we put lights on them at all, but we did have a Christmas tree.
And we made decorations to hang on it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't remember lights either.
No lights. And the folks really didn't want to put candles on them. I mean, they were a little concerned
Yeah.
about fire.
Yeah.
So,
What kind of presents did you get at Christmas as a kid?
You didn't?
pardon me?
What kind of presents did you get as a kid?
Oh,
Homemade. Oh, I know one. It was made out of an orange crate, and it was for my kitchen. I was a little psycho. And then I had the little dishes you could put in there, made out of tin, or lids of things. And all handmade. It was cute. She made curtains for it out of old material. Yeah. Well, I don't know what you got. That was special.
gosh.
That was my big thing.
Well, the one year you and I got velveteen dresses,
Oh, that's right.
princess style.
Yeah.
We were the ball at the dances at that one too, because we always went to all the dances that they went.
Yep, we did. We started dancing
Very young.
real early.
Now, on Christmas Day, I've seen on more than one occasion that they'd have dances or community events. Was it kind of a community thing on Christmas Day? Or
Not so much on Christmas Day. I don't remember
recall
that
that.
so much.
I think those were family times, church and family. I don't remember town things.
Right.
We'd have Christmas programs. School would have them, churches would have them. Yeah, big time. They put on plays and school. Every year in high school, no, 2 years in high school, the class would present a play, so that everybody had to be do something for the play, either be in it or be a set man or something to be in this play. So everybody got a little idea of what it was like to perform and to be in front of people, which is not easy for a lot of us. So, yeah, and school did that forever.
Right.
Yeah.
That was an annual thing.
Mm-hmm. Juniors and seniors.
On your farm, did you actually have a tractor or a car that was converted into a
No,
tractor?
we actually had a tractor. I remember when Dad got that. It was a Ford, what they call it. He called it a Ford Sun, but I don't know if it was a Ford. But that was his first tractor.
And you know, back in those days when they farmed, they didn't bale hay. That was all loose. And the big old forks would come in and the pulleys would pull it up and across into the barn, and then they'd have to stack it inside the barn again.
Yeah.
It was handling it like 4 or 5 times before it ever
Got put where it's supposed to be.
yeah. Hard labor. It really was.
And no matter if it was hay time and the sun was shining and the hay was dry, no matter how warm it was, you were out there doing it. I had to usually drive the horses for the hay loader to load the hay onto the wagon. My job was to drive those horses.
And then we had a man that could drive the 6-horse team. He had 3 reins in each hand because he had 6 horses out there. Oh, can you just imagine what your hands would feel like after a day of that?
Wow.
I got pictures of that. Oh, yeah. I'm sure the old farm people here know.
Did you have horses on your farm at all, or?
Oh yes, we had a
13.
lot of horses. Yeah. And we
Boots and Toots and Molly, and we had all these names.
they were all named.
Yeah.
And because a lot of our farming was done by horses, and even though we had one tractor, I mean, that was just kind of mainly to help plow the land. But they used the horses for planting and for harvesting and.
Did they have a blacksmith in town?
Pardon me?
We had a couple of them.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to ask that. And he was right at the end of Main Street where, let me see, where
Hammer?
Chad is at the,
Mr. Heidenreich?
pardon me?
Mr. Heidenreich?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, he might have been one too.
Yeah, could been, Phyllis.
Yeah.
And he was there at the end of the street where the state farm insurance, that building.
The old Meyer blacksmith shop?
Meyer, that's what
Yeah.
it was. Ed Meyer? No,
No.
that doesn't go together. I'm sorry, I don't have it.
I don't have the name.
Yeah, we had lots of blacksmiths in town, so I figured I'd ask.
Right,
Yeah. Well, that was, they didn't need them so bad when I got old enough to know.
By that time, by the time she was getting to that age, or by the time we were ready to leave the farm, things were already changing from horses to tractors
Yes.
and to all those kind of equipment that you pull with a tractor. They were starting to wane away from the horses.
When you did all that handling of the hay, did people have anything to protect their face? Or you
No,
just breathe all
no,
that dust?
no.
Oh, and then they would, you know, it was hot and they would perspire and their bodies were just all that.
Full of all that shaft.
Oh.
from the
There were a lot of them jumping in the milk tank.
On Saturday night, did you have the big metal tub?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
Absolutely. It wasn't like today with
No.
every day a shower. Yeah. Yeah. Now, things are much different.
But they were happier times.
Yeah. Well, we have no complaints.
Right.
Now, when you took the bath in the tub, did they just leave the water limited to about 2 or 3 inches?
Well, we had a round.
Yeah, but the water depth was only...
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
when I was
Yeah,
a
you
kid,
didn't
they
have too much water in there.
No.
didn't have too much water in there.
And
They
you
warmed
shared-
it up.
You shared it.
They shared it.
Yeah.
Cleanest kid went first, the dirtiest went last.
Yeah. I was the youngest. I went first.
That's true.
Yeah. Right in the middle of the kitchen. Next to the cook stove.
Right next to the cook stove, keep us warm.
Well,
And
thank
we-
you.
We always had apples sitting on the cook stove. Did you ever taste an apple heated up on the cook stove or on? And it's just the sweetest thing. Our dad always had 1 or 2 apples sitting on there. Yeah.
We had an apple orchard, on the farm.
Great memories. Thank you all.
And thank you for sharing them. I'm very happy to have you.